Yes, I want to tell you a little story. I want to take you back in time a little bit to the 1950s. So this is when AI was becoming a thing. Computer technology is brand new at this point in time. And it was really interesting to think about the role that women had in the world of computing. There were actually women who did this job. They were known as computers. And what they did is they did a lot of the math and the multiplication, addition, all this kind of stuff that we would think a actual physical piece of hardware that we call a computer would do today. So these women were known as computers. They worked for these big organizations. And in fact, there's a movie called Desk Set, which really illustrates this well. So Katharine Hepburn, she's kind of the leader of this team of women, and they're doing this job, doing all this computation for a big company. And the company is about to get a big IBM mainframe computer. So the whole story is about workplace automation. And it's such a great story for right now because we're facing those same fears. So women were actually part of this whole industry. But what happened is that women got pushed out of this industry. And there is a whole history of how this happened. But basically, why it happened is that as that work, that software work became known as less administrative and more about coding, and it was seen as important. And the men started coming in, and there started to be this kind of gender role division where women got pushed out of doing that work. And we never really recovered from that moment. I mean, I think we went into a situation where men took over that work essentially. And then women have been trying to move back into representation, equity in the STEM fields for quite a long time. And so right now we see a very inequitable situation still, unfortunately. I've heard the numbers of anywhere from as low as 10% to as high as 30. I pick 20 as kind of a happy medium for representation of women in the field of artificial intelligence. But when you look at who actually gets funding to launch companies, companies need VC funding. It's something like 2 to 3%. So it's very, very low. And so all of that, it's really interesting just when you reflect on the role, women were there, they got pushed out, and we never kind
Mhm.
of got back
No, that's
into
very
that same
interesting,
level
and
again.
thanks for sharing those numbers because yeah, that kind of like shows what the representation is right now. Um, why do you think that matters? The representation of women in AI.
Yeah, so there is a quote that says, "Who makes the technology shapes the
Hmm.
technology." And I think that's very, very true. So if you don't have the opportunity to make a technology, and especially to make management level decisions like owning a business, that kind of thing, then I think your ability to shape that technology becomes really constrained. And I think that matters also for the tech that we get. So the technologies that we get come from a particular type of person who has particular vision about the world. And if you ever wonder, like, why do we have this kind of why do we have so many of these, I don't know, food app delivery kind of services? I mean, maybe it came out because people really wanted that particular thing, and that was a lot of young men who don't cook, right? You think about practical things like that, and then all of a sudden we've got so many food app delivery services, but we don't have maybe some other kind of thing that might be really important for a different group of people. And so I think this idea of like diversity of who makes the technology is incredibly important. And when you have it really skewed, it doesn't give you the best
Hmm.
kinds of
Yeah, yeah,
technology that
that's
you could
absolutely
possibly
true.
have.